announcing there. And our good friend and neighbor, Muiwa.
The IGP mobile police force.
Okay, he has just come.
Special protection unit.
Please, we recognize you for being with
the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Media, Alaji Garba Shehu, the retired AIG, who is also championing the police reform in the office of the Chief of Staff, my sister on the high table, senior officers from the post headquarters that are members of my entourage, the DIG Para Operations, the AIG Para Operations, and the AIG Counter-Terrorism Unit, members of the press, good morning. I'm here to brief you on the state of preparedness of the Nigeria Police Force for the 2023 general elections. You are all aware we are counting days for the 2023 general election to commence, particularly the presidential and the national elections to elect the Senate and the House of Representatives will come up on the 25th of February, and that of the governors and the State House of Assembly on the 11th March. The Nigeria Police is galvanizing all the defense and the security sector to ensure that we provide security before, during, and after to enable Nigerians exercise their franchise. This morning, the aim of my presentation here, is to tell you the role of the security agencies, highlight the general preparation and action plan of the force and other security agencies, and identify challenges and options towards mitigating these challenges. To have a brief background, with the eminence coming into being of the general election, various electioneering activities had already been put in place to achieve that. In other words, when we are talking about before, during, and after, we are looking at the issue of political campaigns, rallies, and processions that are going on now, the actual election day, and also our level of preparedness could it or after the announcement of election. So to look at this issue, let me give you a brief overview of the internal security situation. There have been well-placed concern that the internal security realities of the country could impact on peaceful electoral process and credibility or outcome of the general elections. In due cognizance of this, the force has been making concerted efforts towards stabilizing the internal security order and creating an enabling space for electoral activities to strive. In so doing, the force has identified the following major crimes that could negatively impact on the peaceful conduct of democratic trajectory. We look at offenses like banditry and terrorism, which is majorly geolocated in the northeast geopolitical zone, Violent secessionist campaigns by elements of indigenous people of Biafra and Eastern Security who have been targeting the symbols of democratic governance, including INEC assets, police stations and personnel, the military and other agencies, as well as state government officials, traditional institutions, all in an effort to attain or disrupt the 2023 general election. We also have this growing misguided activities of the Oduduwa Nation agitators who from intelligence sources are also, of late are attempting to also stabilize or destabilize the situation. We have this issue of illegal small arms and light weapons trafficking, which are being used to bring a lot of problems. We have issues including cybercrime, cyberbullying, kidnapping, and other things. So generally, the situation as it is, against this background, the focus of the force has been to upscale our operational activities to stabilize these situations in order to ensure that the election takes place. Preparations of the Nigeria Police Force. We have in place certain strategic, operational, and tactical measures to achieve a peaceful electioneering atmosphere in Nigeria under the following broad layout. 1. Principles underlying the election security plans by the Nigeria Police. The perfection of our election security governance action plan is guided by two key principles. First, is to police the election adversaries, comprising of criminal elements, misguided political elements that are or could pose political threats to the process. The second is to police peace-loving citizens in a manner that will give them the confidence in the democratic system and encourage them to come out and exercise their franchise freely and without molestation. So these are the two poles security provision that we intend to do. Scope of MPF election operation security. Our deployments have been planned to cover the air through the police air wing, who will be closely supported by the Nigerian Air Force, the inland waterways and riverine areas by the Nigerian Forest Marine in collaboration with the Nigerian Navy, and the land by special units, conventional and other forces, both from the police and all other security agencies, including the military. National Election Security Threats Analysis. In aid of our efficient and informed human operational and logistic deployment plan, we have undertaken an election security threat analysis which identifies and prioritizes possible threats to the electoral process in terms of location and specific personalities and groups across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The force is also leveraging on the outcome of similar exercise undertaken and shared with us by the Department of State Services and civil society organizations, particularly Clean Foundation. The operational plan of the force is a product of these initiatives. Deployment coverage. From INET records, there exist 176,846 polling units in 8,809 wards of the 36 states of the Federation and FCT, where the elections will be conducted. The Nigeria Police, with support of other security agencies, have perfected plans to deploy in a coordinated and collaborative manner to cover all these locations. The deployment will cover the National Collation Center in Abuja, as well as other collation centers across the states of the Federation, the FCT, and the 774 local government areas of the Federation. In view of the above, the Nigeria Police will deploy 310,973 personnel for the election security operations. This will comprise of conventional policemen, the mobile policemen, the Special Counter-Terrorism Unit, the Special Forces, Intelligence Response Team, and other other sections of the police. The manpower requirement for this exercise will be complemented by the military and other security agencies. In this regard, aside the military and the DSS, other security agencies that will contribute a total of 93,495 personnel for the election security operations. These include the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense, who will deploy through the police 151,000 personnel, the Federal Road Safety Corps 21,000, the Nigerian Correctional Service 11,336, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency 9,447, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission 350, totaling 404,106 to police the election. With this layout, a minimum of at least two personnel drawn from the above agencies will be jointly deployed to man each of the polling units across the country, while the armed personnel will secure the public space, INEC facilities, vulnerable locations, border areas, as well as undertake armed escort duties for INEC personnel, materials, and local and international observers. We also expect the military to complement this situation by providing armed protection to critical national assets, ensure that the enforcement of movement are curtailed through the blocking of inland ways, exit points and entry points to various states, local governments, and so forth. For the purpose of effective command and control, the Deputy Inspector Generals of Police, who are to be deployed to coordinate the operation in the 6 geopolitical zones, while Commissioners of Police are to be deployed to supervise elections at senatorial zones across the country to complement the Command Commissioners of Police efforts. Election security focus. The election security goal is designed to secure the space as follows. 1. Deployment of armed personnel to secure all INEC facilities. The military and other security agencies will complement police in this regard. 2. Armed escort, like I said earlier, for INEC officials and electoral materials, from the airports to storage facilities and their distribution to registration centers called RAC and polling units across the states. Deployment of tactical units operatives drawn from the special forces, the police mobile force, the counter-terrorism unit, the IRT, TIU, and STS to some clash points in the country at least a week before, to intensify clearance operation to ensure conducive atmosphere for the conduct of the election. Security of local and foreign observers, provision of inter and interstate border and transnational borders, enhance special patrol of the public space across the country to ensure that adverse elements do not take advantage of the electoral period to threaten internal security in any form. Enhance policing of the riverine areas and creeks. Air surveillance with the aid of police helicopters and specialized drones. Deployment of our marine and air assets to support INEC in personnel and material movements. Operational and logistic supports. With regards to logistics mobilization and deployment, the Nigeria Police Force will pool and deploy the following assets: 74 armored personnel carriers, 37 water cannons, 200 gun trucks, 1,240 patrol vehicles, 50 troop patrol carriers, 50 ambulances, 60 buses, 300 motorcycles, motorized crowd control equipment, helicopters, 9 unarmed aerial patrol vehicles, drones for mission-specific areas, surveillance, and support. and 75 gun trucks in the riverine area. Others include the EOD and K9 and mounted troop assets. These are to complement logistics and operational assets that are currently on charge to the 36 states and commands of the FCT, and they include the operational assets that were most recently acquired and commissioned by Mr. President. Tailor model election security training and capacity building programs. In order to sharpen the operational and professional knowledge of police personnel and other security agencies to be deployed to the 2023 general elections, we have organized a series of trainings on election security management. These include election security management workshops, which were extended to the military, DSS, and all other law enforcement agencies by the police. The training, which was based on knowledge transfer framework, was held across the 6 geopolitical zones earlier. 2. Tactical electoral security operations held for police operations officers across the country to enhance their capacity to evaluate and manage any electoral crisis in the best global policing tradition. Police Mobile Commanders operational training course for 79 squadron commanders across the countries have been undertaken to sharpen the capacity for our special security and electoral violence operations. Election security management training organized for police personnel with the aid of the Embassy of the United States of America has also taken place, and it has assisted us greatly in educating our officers in election security management. Election security management was also attended by the Nigeria Police and other security agents, which was also organized at the instance of INEC. A one-day National Women and Youth Summit on Peaceful Election Security organized in conjunction with the Police Community Relations Committee for the training of police personnel. The training, which was themed ensuring secured and safe atmosphere for women and children during election, was geared towards enhancing the knowledge of police personnel to manage gender-based electoral violence and vulnerable persons in electoral process has just been concluded. Strategic engagements of security agencies and the police. In order to strengthen our interagency synergy towards the delivery of our election security mandate, we have been involved in a series of strategic engagements with the military, INEC, and other sister security agencies. Such engagements include: 1. Meeting with INEC leadership and executives of the 18 registered political parties, which was held at my instance at the post headquarters Abuja. The meeting discussed critical concerns as they relate to security of the processes. It had in attendance head of representatives of the Office of the National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, DSS, NIA, and other security agencies. Series of similar strategic engagements were routinely held with INEC leadership under the auspices of the Interagency Committee on Election Security. We've been discussing issues how we can collectively police this election. Conference and retreats, which was held in Owerri, Imo State, for all strategic police commanders from the rank of commissioners of police and above across the Federation to deliberate and perfect the election security operation order and action plan, highlights their roles and expose them to best standards in election security operations leadership. The event was personally declared open by Mr. President. Strategic election security operational meeting was also held with heads of operations of the 3 arms of the military, the police, DSS, and all other security agencies with a view to harmonizing our operational plans for the exercise. Strategic meeting held under the auspices of the Chief of Defense Staff towards perfecting election security plans and related internal security operations ahead of the exercise. Series of engagement with civil society organizations, United Nations agencies and foreign missions on election security framework and the role of observer status. Establishment of Special Coordination and Investigation Unit. For the purpose of ensuring effective election security monitoring and professional handling of electoral offenses on offenders, the force has inaugurated the following special units. Election Monitoring Team, which was composed to monitor the election space and the performance of police personnel deployed across the country with a view to ensuring conformity of professional standards and offering feedback from the field to the force leadership for proactive actions towards strengthening the attainment of our election security goals. The team is headed by a senior officer in the force headquarters. Electoral Offenses Investigation Unit. The unit is headed by an Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of state criminal investigation departments across all the states of the Federation, and a desk at the Force Headquarters Criminal Investigation Department, Abuja. This unit is charged with the responsibility of undertaking the conclusive investigation of all electoral offenses recorded during the 2023 general election and liaising with the legal department of INEC towards the prosecution of such offenders in line with the 2022 Electoral Act as amended. Special Election Intelligence Deployment. As part of efforts to address the menace of both selling and vote buying, a special intelligence unit of the force has been constituted to clandestinely monitor the trend and work with EFCC, ICPC, and INEC in identifying the network that may be involved in this illegality and apprehend them as where possible. In addition, the unique technical intelligence asset of the force are also being deployed towards identifying adverse elements that may be planning to disrupt the process. Through this initiative, such elements will be identified, real-time, geolocated, isolated, and arrested and brought to justice. The force is deploying strategic communication tools with the intent to positively influencing the public narrative towards endangering democratic practices, peace, and security ahead of the elections. In this regard, the services of the media consultant has been retained, and the Force Public Relations Department is currently coordinating with them to push some jingles and other programs into the public space for this purpose. The role of the National Cybercrime Center. In view of the digitalization of the elections and our recognition of the need for a coordinated forensic management and monitoring of the process, the Nigeria Police Force has, through the NPF National Cybercrime Center, established a mobile forensic laboratory and the Security Operations Center to monitor cyber threats in real time and conduct social media analysis of key and non-key players in the electoral process. The center also has capacity to analyze recovered electronic and computer-related pieces of evidence to support the electoral process. In this regard, some operatives from the center will be deployed to other parts of the country, and their activities will be centrally coordinated from the of election security functions by the police, the military, and all other security agencies, all of whom will send the representatives for the center at the national and state levels. Deployment of Interpol tools. The Interpol tools have also been activated at the NCB, Nigeria Force Headquarters, Abuja, with a view to monitoring the global security space for any mutually exchanged intelligence on possible subversive and critical elements that might be perfecting plans to disrupt the electoral process. The NCP Nigeria will collaborate with National Intelligence Agency, NIA, in this regard. Force election security. In anticipation of possible violence, which most often follow the process and final declaration of result at various levels, the force has in place adequate intelligence and operational arrangement with a view to projecting anticipating and promptly dealing with such possibilities should they emerge. The plan is to prevent such localized actions from snowballing into a national security threat. In furtherance to this, the election security deployment framework will remain in place well ahead of the conduct and announcement of election results. Professional standards enforcement framework. To ensure that police personnel and other security agencies to be deployed for the election have a clear knowledge of their roles and operate within the acceptable legal and ethical standards, we have compiled and printed a revised standard operational guidelines / rules for police officers and other law enforcement agents on election security duties. The handbook has been mass-produced and distributed to all police personnel, with copies shared with the military, DSS, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense, and all other security agencies that are going to participate in law enforcement processes and professional standards expected of them in line with their election security operations. Challenges. Much as the Nigeria Police has perfected plans to engender a peaceful electoral process, the following have been identified as possible challenges. 1. Continuous and targeted attacks on INEC facilities by subversive anti-democratic elements. 2. Activities of terrorists, bandits, and secessionists and self-actualization elements. 3. Patronage and deployment of subnational quasi-security outfits by state actors to advance political interests in violation of the Electoral Act. 4. Political thuggery, inter-party crisis and inter-party crisis and intra-party violence. 5. Hate speeches, political intolerance, and extremism, as well as anti-democratic conduct of some state governors and other strategic political actors which could inflame the political space. 6. Funding. Timely release of funds as approved by Mr. President. 7. The fuel situation in the country. 8. The issue of Naira swap. Way forward. To mitigate these threats, the force will maintain the tempo in the ongoing special operations across the country with intent to sustain the current relatively stable internal security order, particularly in troubled areas in the northeast, southeast, etc. 2. Deepen intelligence activities to proactively respond to threats wherever it may occur. 3. Continue to synergize with the military, the intelligence community, and all other security agencies towards presenting a common front in the election security governance plan. Conclusion. It is my belief and conviction that the Nigerian military, the Nigeria Police, and all other security agencies will collectively collaborate, synergize, and cooperate in policing the 2023 general election in order to ensure that a free, fair, and credible election takes place in Nigeria. Thank you very much.